G'day, listeners. I am the hobby hobo Hayden, and today, welcome to the Kharadron Overlords podcast, the Aethercast. Today I am joined by, today I am joining, who is our usual host, but today I'm taking over in a coup, our good man, the Arcanor Admiral Lee Edwards. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for taking the helm today, captaining the ship.
Hey, mate, you're more than welcome. Also joining us today is a man who needs really no introduction, is the Lord Magnate himself, Admiral Autumn, Alexander Cron. How you doing, mate?
Hey, continuing my reign of tyranny, apparently.
Yep. You will always be the Lord Magnate in our hearts, even though you don't always perform, Alex.
No, not at the moment. Not with this rat tat.
You'll get it there, mate. We can talk about that. Right, so today's episode we're going to be talking about something a bit different, because we usually talk about competitive and list building aspects in regards to KO, but today we're doing something a little bit more different, something a bit more fun. We're going to be talking about Kharadron Overlords lore, because there's actually a lot there, and it's something that a lot of people don't really talk about apart from the likes of 2+ Tough, but we'll get to that later. So today we're going to be covering, the general faction lore, the changes in the lore since the transition from 2nd edition and the new book. We'll be talking about certain aspects of it, and we'll be going into why we love it and why it's awesome, because it's KO. So I suppose we may as well just get cracking onto it, which is general Kharadron Overlords lore. Now, I know that both of you aren't really big lore buffs, so do you just want me to take the lead on this one, or do you guys want to have a go?
You can go ahead if you want.
Okay, sweet.
Well, just because I don't know what a Zombek is.
We'll get there.
Impeach Cron. So, essentially, in layman's terms, and in the most basic terms I can put it, the Kharadron Overlords are a oligarchical capitalist meritocracy, with air quotes, who live on giant skyports which are powered by magical metal, which is in a gaseous form. They fled the mountains during the Age of Chaos. If you guys don't know much about the Age of Chaos, I highly recommend you go to 2+ Tough's channel. He does a great lore series. We'll talk about that later. So pretty much during the Age of Myth, when Grugni sort of implanted the Duarden into Shimon, which is the realm of metal, for those of you who don't know. They were classic, Duarden stunties. They lived in the mountains, they mined things, they were grumpy. And then the Age of Chaos happened. And for a while, they sort of held out. They're like, we'll be all right. And they were praying that Grugni would come and save them, but he didn't. Stigma didn't come, all their old allies didn't come to save them, so they had to rely on themselves. And after a while, they started to fall to the privations of Tzeentch and Skaven. And then after that, a whole bunch of them were like, do you know what? The ground isn't safe anymore. Underground definitely isn't safe anymore. We're going to go up to the sky. Because by this stage, a whole bunch of Duarden societies have started building up these sort of like sky vessels, which were powered by ether gold. I mean, they're all very rudimentary, but they were the forefathers of the ships we see today. They pretty much became sky refugees, and they went up. And they pretty much created these whole societies. And the first sort of like skyports, if you want to say that, were pretty much like trading posts in the sky. They're like wee little defensive fortresses. And then after a while, and after a long time carried on, they sort of built up into these massive skyports. And with that, with the whole sky mining thing with ether gold, and because they are a essential meritocracy and such like that, but things that back then they still had clans. They still have clans, but clans back then sort of formed the power in society. And then the early Kharadron started fighting each other, because they wanted rights and stuff like that. And it almost got to the stage where there was going to be a massive civil war. And they were like, nah, stop that. We're all going to go to this wee little sky island called Madrolta. And then when they went to Madrolta, they all agreed on a code to follow so that it would avoid skyports from blowing each other out of the sky. And that's essentially where Kharadron society was born. You know, everything from the way you fight and the way you trade to the way that you brew ale or bugments, essentially.
A specific example of that. Yep,
exactly that. So the Kharadron Code is kind of like a constitution / merchant's code / naval law, all melded into one.
It started off as a ship's kind of crew code, and it was just expanded into a government structure.
And so from all this, we had a number of skyports being formed, and they formed a council called the Galdrad. Like we are the Galdrad of the Kharadron Overlords community on Facebook, because we are the admins. But in Age of Sigmar lore, they've sort of got this big council, and depending on how many Ether Gold shares you've got, depending on how much capital you've got in your skyport, depends on how many delegates you have on this sort of council, which is very reminiscent of the real world. I'm not going to get into that, but okay, Bugger, I'm going to say it. Think of the Kharadron Overlords as Americans in the sky.
We're basically Sky Americans, yeah.
Yeah, they are literally Sky Americans, but and they're probably Scottish.
Turned up to 11, and we don't have Daniel here to argue. So yeah.
Yeah, well, he's from Texas. So there are a number of skyports, and may as well. Who wants to list them off?
Well, you got Barrack. Oh, I mean, it's the sub factions, right? It's Barrack, Barrack Zilveren, Barrack Urbaz, Barrack thrinng, Barrack Morna, and then some other sixth one that no one cares about.
Yep. So the sixth one is Barrack thrinng, and I suppose we may as well get into the nitty gritties. Oh, and Zon. Boo. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Some sixth one that no one cares about.
Yeah, but I mean, we may as well get into the lore of those as well, if you guys don't mind. I mean, unlike a lot of the other books, I mean, the lore sections in the battletome for those skyports are actually quite small. Like, they don't really give you much, but they give you enough to get a sort of general feel of the skyport. So I'll take Barrack Na. So Barrack Na is the largest skyport. It's the most powerful, as it has the most capital. It has the largest fleets. It has the largest skyport. It has all the most sort of shares in everything it does. I mean, it's the big daddy of the Kharadron Overlords, but only by a slim margin, followed by Barrack Zilveren, but we'll get into that. Barrack Na was actually the first skyport to actually come into contact with the Stormcast Eternals during the beginning of the Age of Sigmar, and they were the first to sort of form an alliance with the forces of Order and Sigmar's new Pantheon. They've reaped all the rewards from that, but obviously the Galdrad had to come together all the time and sort of put an amendment and footnotes into the Kharadron Code to allow for them to actually trade and work with the Stormcast and the cities of Sigmar and whatnot. Yep. So yeah, and their colors are purple and ivory and black, which is cool. I love their color scheme. Too bad mine aren't painted like.
And they have the most delegates on the Admiral Council as well, don't they?
Yes, exactly that. So because they have the largest amount of capital, means that they have the largest amount of delegates. I don't exactly remember, but I'm pretty sure that the number of all the Skyport representative is like 12. So like all the delegates in the Galdrad, I think, amount to 12. But obviously, Barrack Na has heat.
It's 18. 18. And actually,
okay.
If we want to talk about delegates, sometime later, I've got the old book, and there's some interesting thing that's happened in between.
Yeah, because they lost a delegate, didn't they, or a couple?
So when the Necroquake happened and everyone lost a whole bunch, it came through, ripped apart all the Aether Gold, shoved it in all different directions, lot of skyports, a lot of companies actually lost their holdings and their mines. So a lot of the skyports have actually changed in the amount of capital they used to have and have now. So Barrack had 7, now they got 6. Zilveren had 4 and have gone up to 5. So the gaps definitely come a lot closer there.
But we'll get into that because that's coming up in the part after we talk about the general war.
Right.
That's all right.
Yep.
Who wants to take Barrack Zilveren for law?
I'll talk about Zilveren. So basically, Zilveren is known as the windswept city. I always used to joke with the old book that they were the windswept city and they would die to a stiff breeze. But that's KO as a whole. We're a little bit more resilient now. But basically, these guys are the best pilots. And they're the fastest ships, and that's where there's a few different guilds in Kharadron society. So there's like the Navigators Guild, the Chemist Guild, the Grun Corps, and also like the Endrin Guild. And so the Navigators Guild is located in Barrack Zilveren, which is part of the reason why they end up having sort of the best pilots and the best navigators and things. What else can I say about Zilveren, really? I mean, generally, they're all about the ships. There's also that new company that's sort of rivaling the Grun Corps. It's basically a company that makes extra components for ships, and that's in Barrack Zilveren as well. That's the one that's
Zomba Corp.
That's it, yeah. Zomba Corp. That's in Barrack Zilveren as well. So they have the best ships. The best navigators, and they fly around all over the place really fast, and they're starting to get a bit richer now because pretty much they can normally get to if there's a new seam of Aether gold discovered somewhere, or someone thinks there's going to be one somewhere, they can get to it the quickest.
Yeah,
it's particularly handy after the Necroquake because a lot of them got blown away.
Yeah. Sweet. We may as well leave the next one, which I think we all know what that is, to Elex.
Barrack Urbaz?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so they're more of the market. Barrack. They're all about trading with other dwarves, with the ground. With the ground cities. I think they have the most amount of posts set up in the ground cities. Which gives them access to all the different trading routes. And they've got chemists. The Chemist Guild is with them. So they have basically perfected mining in ether clouds.
Yep.
Do they have realm gates that only they know about?
That's Morna.
Yep.
The shadow guys.
Yeah. We will get to them. But I'm pretty sure Barrack Morna are actually next, aren't they? On the list of the
are we going in order of the sub-factions in the battletome?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they're next then.
Sweet, cool, I'll talk about them. So Morna are the black sheep of Kharadron society in the respect that they just don't give a fuck. They are literally the black-bearded pirates of the skies. They are well known for being able to bend the sort of code to their will. And they'll take every opportunity to find loopholes and caveats to the code in order to do their weird little criminal activity, I suppose. So they're known as pretty much like the City of Shadow. They've got a dark blue and ivory color scheme, which is actually quite cool. But Barrack Morna were the ones who almost started this giant civil war. Back in the day, because they were reaving, they were pirating around the place, and they were taking out other Kharadron ships to take their ether gold. But obviously since then, since the Conference of Gibraltar, they have sort of stopped doing that. But as I said before, they're very piratical in the way they do things. And we'll get into what's happened with them in the Necro Quake, because it's actually quite funny to me. But yeah, and they have access to realm gates that no one knows about. So they can actually slip in and out of different realms and do their business as they see fit. Yeah.
They also had, I'm not sure if it's still represented in the lore, but it was in the first battletome. There was a mention of they had like some special camouflage technology. So they could sort of, I don't know how they did it. They like changed the appearance of the ships or the colors of the ships sort of at their will. I don't know if they like manipulated Aether or something. So they could sort of basically camouflage the skip and then sort of come in and attack by surprise.
They could pretend to be Barrack Zilveren or Barrack Nard vessels. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like come under a flag of friendship and get let into the trading port, then take whatever they wanted and leave.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're like the mean nasties, but also funny.
All technically legal.
Yep, exactly that.
Yeah.
It's all technically legal within the Kharadron Code. They have not breached the Kharadron Code, but it's because they read it over and over and over and over again, and they chuck in these amendments all the time just so they can get loopholes to do whatever they want to do.
Whenever the Admiral Council tries to sort of make other amendments, to block these loopholes, they're always obviously against it.
Yeah,
and they're trying to vote against. Obviously, they probably sort of get outnumbered anyway, but trying to stop it.
Sweet, and I'm pretty sure the next one is Barrackson.
Cool.
Who wants to talk about Barrackson?
If we're taking in turns, shall I talk about Zon?
Yeah, mate, talk about Zon.
So Barrackson, the City of the Sun, and these guys are really into the military, basically. So they basically believe that the best way to negotiate is to be aggressive, and the best way to fight is to be aggressive. So the military is a big part of society on Barrackson. Everyone that lives there is required to take part in a daily shooting practice. One thing that their Kharadron society has is they have these things called muster presses, which is basically how Archanaut crew is selected. Like Archanaut crew aren't just like, you don't just go to a job interview and go and take a written exam. They have these muster presses where you go through basically training and sparring and shooting, and basically you have to prove your worth to basically be worthy enough to be on a frigate or ironclad crew or something. And so Barrackson are basically known for having the harshest and most rigorous muster presses to get through. And they don't rely on their ships so much. So wherever, particularly where other skyports will rely on the firepower of their ships and things, or the speed of their ships, like if it was often Barrackson will rely more on their infantry and their skyriggers and their arcanauts and their thunderers to just go and kill people rather than the ships do it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of sort of military veterans in Kharadron society basically come from Barrackson, and they have this medal that they award the best veterans. So if you're a really good veteran in Barrackson, then you get awarded the Iron Star, which is, I don't know, like getting a Purple Heart or something. I don't know medals. Medal of
It's
Honor.
like their Victoria Cross or their Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
It's like a big deal for them.
Unfortunately, I really like Barrackson's background. It's that they're the skyport that'll actually go out and start wars, start fights, and
Yeah.
They're not just traders. They're the actual. Like they will fight for the mortal realms, kind of thing.
And a little correction to something we said earlier: Barrackson was actually the first skyport.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
And it's also the highest situated in the sky.
There you go.
That's some Barrack propaganda right there.
Yeah.
Try to insert themselves into history.
Yeah.
Yep. Sweet. So we've covered off all those, and now we're going to cover off the last one, which has the lowest amount of capital in the Galdrad, and that's Barrack thrinng. Take it away, Alex.
Barrack thrinng. They're the traditionalists. Basically, they go so far as to they hold the old dwarven superstitions. They kind of worship the old gods. They're the most likely to like bring in dwarf allies. They're very traditionalist, so they abide 100% by the code as it was originally written and intended. There are no loopholes. There are no amendments. There is just the code. They're very
Yeah.
Basically, Barrack Morna is your whack player. Barrack thrinng's your floppy player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes.
But
sorry. Continue.
Yeah. That does mean that they have the least amount of capital and the least amount of delegates.
Yep.
And most of the appeals are made by them to amendments to the code.
Yep. They are the grumpy old man on the seat. But yeah, another interesting fact is that they actually have a Fire Slayer Lodge on Barrack thrinng, which is quite interesting. You don't really see that much. Yeah. So they've got a lodge up there. As you said before, they take in a lot of refugees and whatnot, and members of other Dwarven societies. Another thing we've got to mention before is that due to the fact that the Kharadron are essentially atheists, they're not atheists, but I mean, like, so essentially after the Age of Chaos, they saw that the gods had abandoned them, their allies had abandoned them. They thought, right, we need to be self-determinant. And there's a good quote there, which used to be an old footnote or whatever it was in the rules, was trust in thematics, not superstition. So they don't trouble themselves with the works of the gods. They don't worship them. But Barrack thrinng does, and obviously being Dwarven, they still covet their ancestors, and they still do kind of reference the gods quite a bit in their lore. Some of that, especially in the novels, which we'll get into, but it's not, to the point of on your knees worshipping. It's more sort of controlled and sort of flippant in a way.
They'll pay tribute to the old rites, like throw salt into the wind to have a lucky journey or something like that.
Yeah. So so those are all the major skyport. There are mentions of others, such as the lost skyport Barrack Zoff, which was lost many generations ago, and there's a really cool novella which I really enjoyed, which we'll get into later, which actually covered a bit on that. But yeah, so Barrack Zoff just went missing, and there's still people around today in the Kharadron skyports who are actually from Barrack Zoff, but they've sort of been assimilated into the skyports. So that's sort of the skyports. I suppose we should talk about what happened, what's changed since the release of second edition and the new battletome, since the Shaishnet Echoquake, or as they call it, the Barrack Totem.
Before we move on, just quickly, just been keeping an eye on the chat. Adam Prince pointed out that Barrack Zilveren also has the Engineers Guild there as well, not just the Nav League. so they're the best engine masters and stuff. And he's also said that Barrack Morna is basically what AOS players are like, trying to find the best rules and loopholes and things like competitive AOS players, which is quite true.
Very true, very true. Good for pointing out that. Good, Adam. Yeah. So with the Garruk Totem, so here's essentially what happened. So, I mean, right now we're in the midst of the Soul Wars, narratively as the story pushes forward. And when it hit the Kharadron in a really big way. So when it hit, essentially all the Ether Gold streams, or at least most Ether Gold streams, were pushed away, right? So they've gone all over the realms, all over the different places. Ships were blown out of the sky. All the magic in the sky created these like rogue endless spells that were flying about and stuff like that and causing them mischief. There's actually one excerpt in the battletome that says that an ironclad was torn in half by a wandering ether void pendulum.
Not just an ironclad. Barrack's Zilveren's capital ship, like one of the big battleships.
Yeah. Really? Oh wow!
Barrack's Zilveren's premier, like, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it was real bad for the Skyfleets. So it's like you had whole sky fleets go missing. You had whole sky fleets fall from the sky. You had massive night haunt invasions happen because obviously they can fly, so they just went woo and just went up and just started causing mischief. But yeah, so and on top of that, so it actually says in the book that Barrack lost a fifth of its sky fleet, which is pretty big when you consider the amount of investment that they actually put into that fleet. But with that, there's also been a positive note. Because Kharadron Overlords are very opportunistic in the way they do things. With the changes of all these ether gold seams, a lot of the old sort of mining rights and a lot of the old trade sort of lanes have been changed, and so now they've all rushed off to go find these ether gold seams and claim them for themselves, and that's why you've seen the change in the sort of Galdrad where Zilveren has gone up, because they were the best to capitalize on the changes, and they were the quickest. So they found these ether gold seams faster than pretty much anyone else. So they've gained an extra seat and more capital.
Yeah. All right. So. Yeah. Looking at the Galdrad and the delegates. Hang on, let me just bring it back up again. I have a book here. Wasn't just the two top barracks that switched around. A lot of those lower ones. I believe Morna and Zon also switched places.
Yeah. But there's reasons for that, and I may as well cover off that. I'm not too sure if you guys remember what happened. So in the book it says that Barrack Morna disappeared. And then, bloop, out of Shimon. And everyone was like, what? Where the fuck did they go? It turns out that they've popped up in a new realm, and it's shadowy. And no one can find it apart from them. So I think we can all guess as to where they are. So they pretty much took their skyport and just put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, they moved their entire skyport to the realm of shadow.
Pretty much. At least that's what we can speculate, because it's all shadowy and stuff like that. So so they've pretty much gone to Ulgu and they're doing their things there.
Some of the other stuff that's happened since is like whenever you're sort of in a position where you're getting your ass kicked, basically, you have to sort of reinvent yourself a bit, and you have to sort of look at your technology and sort of look at what's not working, what is working. And so there's been some like new inventions and stuff. So there was like an engineer from Barrack that basically invented a device that like could repel magic. And there's also been some other things, like obviously everyone knows about like the spell in the bottle. So obviously like chemists have come up with this way so they can like trap endless spells into bottles and things. And like there's also been some, like the Grun Corps have also adapted as well, and there's this whole new sort of, not even like bigger than like a unit, but like a whole new section of Thunderers really, that are called the Black Marines, and they basically specialize in fighting sort of non-corporeal entities, like basically ghosts and spells and stuff. So it's black armor, and it's a bit sort of strange for Kharadron society because they sort of have like warding sort of spells almost on their armor and stuff. Like a lot of the Kharadron society sort of looks down upon, sort of saying they should do it, but they kind of let it go because it does work. Like they
sorry. Something that didn't. What? I think I'm coming down with a cold. Something that was expanded on a new book that I thought was really cool was this gigantic, like, blockade and siege and battle of Barrackson.
Yeah.
So it's something that really put Barrackson on the map. Basically, massive Zench host surrounds Barrackson, blockades all entrances to it, and like, they've started this huge siege. And Barrackson basically gathers every other skyport into one gigantic force and liberates Zon, chucks Zench, like smashes all the Zench forces. And I think that's actually what that big double page spread where you see Brock at the front leading all these balloon boys and boats. I think that's what that spread's actually supposed to be representing, because you can see all the different skyports in there, and it's really cool. Cool picture.
It's one of those things that's sort of half mentioned in the old book in a couple of places, but I think they give it a bit more detail in this one.
Which is great. I mean, we've got less lore pages than in the old book, but that's okay. But I've actually got the Aether War book in front of me here, and this actually goes into a lot of detail into the fighting around the Spiral Crux. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Spiral Crux is sort of in the center of Shimon, and that's where Tzeentch sort of has his foothold in the realm of metal, because he really likes it. I don't know why. I suppose it's because change and stuff like that, because he's Tzeentch and he's an asshole. But yeah, and it goes into a lot of detail into, like, you know, how, you know, Tzeentch jumped into Shimon in the Age of Chaos, into the Age of Sigmar with all the stuff with the Stormcast arriving and stuff like that, and the Alliance of the Heavens when the Galdrad swiftly moved to negotiate with Sigmar and stuff like that. And yeah, it's actually really cool to see, because me personally, I really love to see lore changes. I love to see things being updated and stuff like that. I love that stuff.
Story progression, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It was something that I really hated. Sorry, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like about old 8th edition for Annecy and going backwards. That it was just so stagnant. It was just like, sweet, cool. The Empire is always in a constant state of peril. It's like, okay. And the dwarves were always fighting the orcs or whatnot, and the Tomb Kings were just sitting down there and Nehekara being grumpy, you know. But yeah, with this, you're seeing a lot of change. Shall we start talking about the novels? Because there's been a few.
Yeah.
Sweet. Who wants to start off on that?
Well, I can talk about the first one because I haven't read the second one, so you'll have to all the talking about that. But
also just read the first one.
The first novel is called Overlords of the Iron Dragon, and basically follows like a bit of a ragtag sort of bunch of because it's kind of like a small fleet, and it's not even led. It doesn't even have any what you'd call heroes. Or characters if you're building your army, so it's literally led by the captain of an ironclad, and
failing captain at that.
Yeah, he's and I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. I can't remember. I thought I had it there for a second, but no. So basically, he's also rumored to have a bit of a curse on him as well because he's had some bad luck in the past, really. So it's just basically one ironclad and two ships, and they start off and they're going out and they're doing some trading with basically like some nomad tribes, like some slave to darkness peeps. They sort of turn up to go and do some trading with them, and they get really angry with them because basically, obviously, other people have been there first, and so this is more bad luck for this captain. So all that's left is sort of like these like hides and stuff where they've hunted animals and stuff, and they've got the hides, but it's all like the flea bitten ones and the ones that are no good, and basically it's all the leftover stuff that no one else wants. But there's they notice there's something a bit fishy going on with them, and what sets up the whole story is they basically realize that actually the reason they sort of beckoned the KO to the top of this mountain with like fire is because they also had some Kharadron Overlord stuff to trade. They had like some technology and stuff, and they didn't know what it was, like because these are like basically barbarians, but they obviously recognized it was Kharadron Overlord's technology because they've traded with them in the past, and the KO guys are a bit sort of like, they don't know what to do because they have to consult the code, and sort of on the one hand it's they suspect it could be stolen, on the other hand it could be from a destroyed ship or something, but if they suspect that potentially like these barbarians have been up no good and killing Kharadron Overlords, and really they shouldn't be trading with them if that's the case. Dealing with these like illicit goods, and the barbarians basically tell them that they found it all, and so they embark on this quest to try and find the ship that it come from, and they take like the prince from the tribe with them, because as like collateral, so that if it is a trap or if it is, or they have been up to no good, then they got him with them and they can, they can take him back to the Skyport and deal some punishment basically, which is quite cool. And that's quite interesting because it shows how much disdain they have for them. When it's quite interesting because they basically how they treat this guy on the ship, and they sort of come to respect him a little bit towards the end. I don't know. I don't know really whether to spoil the whole story or not, or whether. Well, it's been out for ages, hasn't it? So.
Or what do you think? Do we actually spoil like the twists?
Yeah, definitely not with the new one. I don't know this one. Yeah, well, I think maybe we shouldn't. But basically, they discover, like, they go and look for this ship that's been down, and basically, they realize it's.
They fight a whole bunch of different factions.
Yeah. They basically come across the ship.
There's some stuff going on,
and they find there's also they find a survivor on the ship. And then he basically tells them, look, what happened was we found this really potent Aether gold. It's like off the charts. Like this guy's a chemist. He's like you would never seen Aether gold like this. It's the most powerful stuff ever. And so he basically tries to convince the crew that they should go and make claim to this Aether gold scene before someone else finds it, because it's so basically it will make them all rich the rest of their lives. But they're a little bit like, they don't know whether they should or not. They've got to deal with all the fact that they've got this like this barbarian prince on board and stuff, and they don't, and also like they're not equipped for mining really. They're just like a small fleet, because it's basically revealed in that book that they have special ships for but like oil tankers, basically big flying tanker ships and things, and they haven't got any of them. And if this stuff is as powerful as he says it is, then it's going to be dangerous to transport it, because when it's raw and it's unprocessed, it's potentially very explosive. So it's like carrying around a bomb, essentially.
Very explosive, yeah.
So basically that creates some tension on board of the ship, and that sets off the whole story, really. And I don't think I can say much more without spoiling it.
So things that I got out of like little lore things I got out of this book was our ships are supposed to be a lot bigger than they actually are.
Yeah,
ironclads are huge.
Massive.
Multiple stories, like multiple decks. Where falling from the top of one to the bottom of one could severely hurt you. If you're a dwarf, but still, they have decks, like full on top decks. They have little, like almost gyrocopter, like a little transport ships that can fly from one that they use to fly from the ironclad to the frigate and back. And every ship's got this. So frigates should be a lot bigger. They'll have a lot more transport space. Yeah. Boats are big.
Yeah.
We need 2-scale boats.
Yeah, so it also delves quite a lot into the life of the crew, and like how it operates of that, and the roles of the different members of the crew. So like pretty much every ironclad or every ship has a contingent of sky wardens and engine crews, and then they sort of like, and it's quite cool how they describe them, like clunking up the decks and coming up to the top and then hooking onto the ship and then zooming off to surround the ship and stuff like that as a form of an escort, which is quite cool. It's just really in depth into just how they do things on the ship, which I think is great.
Definitely worth looking at if you're a KO player.
Yeah,
definitely. And then the second, I
was just going to say another cool thing in that book is basically a type of like an archetypal sort of person in Kharadron society that isn't really mentioned anywhere else. It might be in one of the new novel. Is that most fleets will have a logisticator. Which is basically he's like an accountant and a trade negotiator sort of person. And he's almost like a lawyer as well. Like he's like almost like a rules lawyer. Like he's there to like interpret the code and work out like what they can get away with and what they can't, and how much stuff is worth when they're trading, and basically to make sure that the fleet sort of makes a profit when it returns. Because if they return and they don't make a profit, like they're screwed basically. Because constantly the crew of the ship is basically worrying about like if they return and they haven't made, and they're going to turn up with an empty hull or something, that they're just, because basically like the whole trip is financed by like financial backers back at the skyport, and they turn up empty-handed, they're going to be pissed off of them.
Which all that flows on to the second book, Prophet's Ruin, which was released with the battletome. And it's really good. I haven't finished it yet. I'm sort of probably halfway through the book, so I can't really tell you about the ending, which is good for spoilers. But essentially, it's the story of how the admirals returned almost immediately after coming back from this mission. And he's sort of
spoilers.
trying
He survives
to...
the first book.
Yep. He survived the first book. A whole bunch of people don't. Yeah, there are a few spoilers in this, so if you don't want to know, leave or just turn it off. And then come back.
The same characters.
Yep.
Oh,
So so these guys are all from Barrack, Zilveren, and they return, and it's sort of like you know, like this dude's sort of been like put before the Admiral's Council and everything like that, and they're all pissed off at him so that because they were the ones that backed him and all that stuff like that, and it was a big exchange. And then he's sent with his crew on the Iron Dragon, that's the name of the ship, and a small sort of sky fleet to go with him. And they're off to go find something called the Prophet's Ruin, which is essentially this giant sort of tangle of weeds in the sky. It's been a myth for years and years and years. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like an old soldier's tale. An old sailor's tale. And these guys have to go find it because the story goes that this giant entanglement of weeds that goes as far as the eye can see, it pulls in sky vessels from, you know, if they venture too close, and it pulls them in and stuff like that. And potentially there's, you know, a lot of ether gold. There's a lot of stuff there that they can salvage, and then bring back a good off it. And they're sent on this mission by one of the members of the council, I believe. And yeah, actually, no, I think it's actually a merchant. But yeah. And it all turns out there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of trickery going on and stuff like that. But once I finish the book, it'll get to it. But it does cover in brief, you know, the effects of the Garactorum and stuff like that, and the effects on society and all that stuff like that. And it goes a bit more in depth as to how the actual hierarchy works as well.
I blame Morna.
Yep,
I immediately blame Morna.
Yeah.
This Prophet's Ruin sounds like a Morna thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so these guys have essentially been sent on a suicide mission because it doesn't really because either way, if they all die, then it's fine. But if they survive, then they're going to come back with a profit. So, yeah. But yeah, because actually one of the ships in the Prophet's Ruin, when a wandering sky got close to it, they found a survivor. And he sort of gave the Skyporter's chart to find it, and to find him. And so yes, that's where it all kicks off. But yeah, so far it's a great book. C.L. Werner is a really great writer. He wrote the first book, and yeah, it's just fantastic. I'm really looking forward to finishing it. And I suppose now we can go into a few of the novellas which go even deeper. And I'll pull one of them up now on my phone because I've got the ebooks. What's it called? Oh, sweet. So there were two novellas written by Graham Lyon. The first one is Beneath the Rust, and the second one is the Code of the Skies. And the first one sort of sets up the story for the second one. I haven't actually read the first one. I only read the second one. And that's also really great. So these guys are from Barrack, and it's about this. So like it starts off and they're fighting in this ornate stronghold, and they kill everyone, and they're going through all their spoils and stuff like that, right? And this one Arcanaut, she ends up killing this great. It's a special ship, yeah, and she fighting. And the Admiral sees, and she goes, that's...
Oh.
Have we lost him?
It sounds like it.
James.
Hayden?
Yep.
Oh.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, we're back. You're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Did you just miss everything I said?
Good.
Yes.
Well,
you talk about the female Archnaut, and then you got cut off mid-sentence.
Okay.
How's she got a new ship? She got a special ship?
No, yeah. So she does. Yeah. So there's an admiral and her crew within an ironclad from Barrack. They're fighting on this Cornate stronghold, and she finds this wee orb thing, which is Kharadron in nature, but it's very ancient technology. And so then she finds it. The admiral takes it from her in exchange for more shares, and then they take it back to the Admiral's Council because this admiral really does think that it's quite special. And it turns out that it's actually a map of all the different skyports and their locations. But every different sort of skyport has a specific rune from this age, and the Barracks one is missing. And so it's sort of like about their journey to try and find Barracks, which is potentially a huge either thing for investment or even just to give them closure. Because one of the members of the Admiral's Council in Barrack is actually a refugee from Barracks, and so he personally invests in this mission to try and find it. And it's really cool. Yeah, because it goes into all that stuff like that. I'm not going to spoil it for everyone. I hope you guys read it, but it turns out to be a really cool ending.
Brilliant.
Oh yeah, and also and the story goes into like how the Kharadron fight in a large fleet setting.
Okay.
So like there's a part in the book where they go down and they help out a storm. They help out a storm keep, which is under siege by the undead because obviously this is during the Soul Wars. And it goes into like the tactics they use and stuff like that, and how they all coordinate themselves and the firing and the dropping off of troops. It's really cool.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
because I think most of the other stories about are quite often following like a smaller fleet. So
more character driven, yeah.
So to see something about a larger fleet gives a bit more insight to how they fight.
Yeah, because, sorry, carry on.
I was just saying, yeah, that's quite like if you want to know more about how they fight, that's probably a good one to pick because most of the others are.
One thing I actually forgot to mention was that the Admiral's Council actually denied this Admiral's request to go on this, foolhardy mission, and because one of the members of the Admiral's Council is actually the father of this female Archnaut we were talking about before, and in the previous and in the previous book, his wife had died on one of the missions launched by this admiral, so he's got a bit of a thing there where he doesn't want his daughter to follow her. But so this guy from Barracks he privately funds the mission, and he secretly sort of gets this mission going, and he deploys a small fleet. But then the father of the Archnaut finds this out, and so he musters a huge Barracks fleet to go after these guys and to bring them back and to charge them for treason, essentially. And he sort of like follows them on. But obviously I'll let you guys read it to get to the ending and to the climax and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
All right, yeah.
Sounds like a good one.
It is really good. It's only in the novella. It's quite short, but there's a lot of stuff packed in there.
Cool. So there's another novella as well, isn't there?
Yep. So there's the one I said before, which is something about Rust. I can't get to it, or else it breaks up my internet. I'm not too sure about any other novellas. Yes, that's it. That's the precursor to the novella I was just talking about.
Okay.
Also, they're connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
So following on from that, Kharadron have had quite a few mentions in a lot of more recent books.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously because they're such a unique faction and just the way they do things, and obviously because Games Workshop wants to sell more KO. So like for example, in the Callus and Toll books, there's they like jump on a ship for a bit, with an admiral and stuff like that. There's a lot of mentions of how they're quite shrewd and how they're quite grumpy, but they're also very professional and stuff like that.
KO are basically fast travel in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
So like whenever a bunch of adventurers want to get anywhere, they just find the local Kharadron sort of outpost and they buy a ship.
If there's not a realm gate nearby, then find some KO.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are the taxi service of the realms, really.
There's also a couple of short stories from White Dwarf. So there's one from quite a long time ago, actually. It's last year sometime. That's set in Gairan. So if you're familiar with like the Living City, which is like sort of it's split across. It's in Gairan and in the Axia as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
It's the one that has a realm gate at its center, and it's in like sort of two parts. But they're in the Gairan side, and there's a short story where basically it's just one ironclad, I think, with a small crew, and they're actually flying around in the catacombs under the city, which is pretty cool. It gives you an idea of how big.
Because they're that big.
And they're flying around under there, and they're basically their navigator or their chemist, I can't remember which one it is, has basically sort of detected something of immense power, and so they go off looking for that, and they eventually sort of find it. But when they get there, they can't get the ship in where it needs to go because so they have to all sort of disembark off the ship and go and find this thing, and then. Sort of the story, because it's only a short story, so I will spoil it. The story sort of ends with basically they're not the only people hunting for whatever this thing is, this immense, magical, powerful object, and they all get killed basically by these big tentacly things, which I'm not entirely sure what they are.
Well, the old gods have arisen and Cthulhu will take us all, apparently.
Yeah. So there's that one. And then there's also a more recent one, which is, let me just double check because I have it here. It's from, why doesn't it say what month it is? Issue 450. That doesn't help. I'm going to say February's issue, maybe January's. Which obviously you could probably still get hold of, because getting hold of the other one, it will probably be quite difficult. But there's just a little short story, and it's a bit similar to the story I outlined earlier with Overlords of the Iron Dragon, where they come across basically a downed Kharadron Overlord ship, and they're sort of trying to work out what could have done it because it's been torn in half basically, and it turns out that that's a trap, as so often things are.
It's a trap.
Little short story about them fighting some chaos demons basically, and they do a cool little maneuver at the end where they use the skyhook to drag themselves boat closer to this big demon and then fire their torpedoes once they're closer, once the skyhooks drag them closer to kill it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so the ones in White Dwarf, they're literally like 2 pages long or 3 pages long, so there's not much necessarily in them. But if you're not sure whether you want to, get into a novel or something, you want to just have a quick idea, then you could maybe start with those, and then if you enjoy them, move on to a novella or a novel. Give you a bit of an idea.
Yeah, I think it's really good to get the context behind the army that you're basically playing. You should check out at least one of these additional stories from the KO range.
Yeah,
because it really is worth it.
It really is, and that fits perfectly into our next subject: what we love about KO lore and why we love it. So, Lee, I'll get you to start on that one.
Well, I like the most. I like all the stuff to do with the code. Like as like Adam pointed out earlier, like there are certain types of players of Warhammer, and I am one of these ones that will go through all the rules and try and work out loopholes and that. So I like the fact that I am playing a faction that essentially does that. It's kind of a nice excuse as well, because then if like you can just say it's narrative when you are using loop. But yeah, so I love all the stuff to do the like the code, and I like the fact they have guns. It's really silly, but I like the fact that they are like this one faction that's flying around. They got technology and stuff, and that they're flying around and they're using technology, and they're not like praying all the time or doing rituals and things. They're just relying on themselves and their own technology and going out and using that to either win battles or whatever they need to do. That's my favorite stuff about it, really.
Yeah. Alex, you're up next.
I just like my favorite part. Well, the reason I got into KO was the boats. So obviously, I love the boats. Especially they're very still very old-fashioned kind of. They got broadsides and they have decks, and there's a lot of ship terms being thrown around in the books, like hard port, fire, broadside batteries, and I love that kind of stuff. I like that they're more scientific and less magical, which is why we now use an endless spell in every game. But I like that they're out of all this high, you've got this high fantasy, this endless spells, this etheric strains and stuff. It's KO are grounded in realistic science, as long as you accept the fact that you can get lighter than air gold, which does everything and isn't magic. It's science. But they've got kind of explanations for everything. There's a reason the cities float. There's a reason there's a way their guns work. It's very it's almost science fantasy in the Star Wars-y science fantasy kind of way. Science magic.
That's a really good point. So for me, the reason I love their lore so much is because it is, as you're saying, so much different to everything else. Where every other faction pretty much, they all follow a god and stuff like that. They're all based on
a god.
Yeah, exactly that. But KO have gone the completely other way, and they've gone completely in the way of self-determination, which is fantastic. I just love the aesthetic of their lore and everything like that, because it goes into so much detail into their society and how it's run. And as you were saying before, the moment I saw Kharadron Overlords pop up on that preview back in 2017, I was in love, because I just thought, wow, what's this guy's lore going to be? Because it is so different. But with that, they're so Age of Sigma, because Age of Sigma in itself is a weird and wacky, the mortal realms are a weird and wacky place. And KO just sort of fits that whole aesthetic, and that goes into their lore as well, just being this strange steampunky thing that technically wouldn't really fit into, you couldn't get these guys in old Warhammer Fantasy. You would never get these guys into old Warhammer Fantasy without having to retcon a whole bunch of stuff. But they fit so much in Age of Sigma, and and I just love the intricacies of their society, because it really does reflect our own, if you get what I mean. Because obviously all three of us are Westerners. We all live in democratic societies, which are technically meritocracies. And that just reflects their own in the way, but it's done in a different way. And another thing as well, which I'd like to point out, is that when I was reading the lore, because in the first book it didn't really go into much depth in regards to the lower ends of society, whereas in the new lore and in the new novels as well, it goes into the fact that yes, they may be meritocracies, but it's really hard to get up the ladder if you're at the bottom. So it shows the light and the dark side of it, which is great because that's
political commentary.
No, but I think though, Kharadron Overlords in essence are a very political society. I mean, you see that in the books, of its ruin, especially. There's a ton of politics going on in that society, whether it be for banking, or or technologies of that. In the end, it's all politics, and that's what I like about it. Is that it's so up and down. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
It's very detailed. Yeah, you could run like there is enough detail here to have an RPG in this society almost.
Yeah, exactly that. You've got all these different guilds and specialities. You've got the guys who clean out the toilets. You've got the guys who run whole sky fleets.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm really looking forward to. I don't remember the name of the new RPG that's coming out. Do you guys remember? Is it Soulbound or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Anyway.
Is chat saying anything?
No.
Yeah.
Well, they have been saying stuff, but not what the name of the RPG is.
Okay. But we do know that KO are going to be a playable character, I suppose, in the game, and I'm most certainly doing that. I'm probably going to do a Thunderer or something like that because I love Thunderers. And because I'm in the army,
it is Soulbound.
It is Soulbound. Yeah, I was right. Yeah. But yeah, so another reason as well I like KO is that even though they say they are militaristic, everything in their society revolves around the military and the economy. And me as a soldier, I just find a sort of a affinity to that,
Yeah. Yep. They're always on this tightrope of everything revolves around Aether Gold. It kind of parallels oil in some ways. Like
exactly,
they wouldn't be so powerful without it. Like their society just wouldn't exist without it. But then they're constantly in need of it and having to find more.
Yeah.
Yep. And now in this new book, they've also got like some things. There's a passage about some of the chemists, I think, speculating. Wait. So what happened? Like, we're using a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of it in the mortal realms. But what if we ever ran out? And then like the upper people, the Geldgard and such, are like, nah, don't worry about it. Just get more.
Yeah, that's one of the things about Barrack thrinng, isn't it? Is that they are a lot less reliant on. They're a lot more frugal with how they use it, and they use more efficient. More efficient ways of using it, I think, or something like that. There was definitely.
I think that's Urbaz.
I thought there was something about Barrack thrinng where they or they use less efficient stuff because they use the more older technology, because it was additional, and they sort of clashed with the other skyports over it a little bit.
Cool. So so to round off that section, KO lore is fucking awesome. It's
amazing.
Yep, it really does describe the faction, and I'm really looking forward to more novels and bits and pieces about KO because we all know there's going to be more as the narrative pushes on, especially with the new Soul Wars books as well. Mm-hmm. Like we've just had the Wrath of the Everchosen, and I really enjoyed reading that lore. Because even though I'm a competitive player, I'm also just an all-round nerd. I love to read the lore as well. And it was great because it was so back and forth. And I'm really hoping that some of that comes out for the KO.
I mean, KO really got me into like Age of Sigma. I really wasn't feeling Age of Sigma. I was probably still in like the fantasy mindset. I didn't like the whole super ultra high fantasy where I couldn't really relate to any of it. I was like I couldn't ground myself into get a foothold. Like okay, there's this giant dragon that's the size of a planet, and then it dies, and then there's this other giant like comet beast magic thing. But then KO gives you like a really like, alright, so this is how this society is. This is how it functions. This is how it kind of deals with fighting against like magic gold warriors and change demons and naked babies with naked ginger babies. I don't know. Yeah, it really grounded me. Like, okay, so I've got this point of reference. Now I can go from this, and I can kind of look at Age of Sigma and go, okay, so that's how that kind of would function and stuff. And then the cities came in, and that helped too. But yeah, it was KO that really started that trend for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Adam has saved us in the chat again. He's correcting us on the efficiency thing. So Urbaz have got the more efficient ways of refining Aether Gold, but it creates pollution. Barrack thrinng uses older technology that takes longer, but is cleaner and creates less pollution, which is even more commentary on modern society. and
what a great. Thank you, Adam. We suck.
Yeah.
Doesn't
go ahead.
Like you'd think older technology would make more pollution. Really?
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Maybe.
Like,
if
you look at the old Victorian era stuff, and you look at the current stuff, like.
Yeah. Well, cool.
I don't know.
So
that's how it works.
Yeah. So that's Kharadron Overlords lore. It's great, and we love it. And we hope that you enjoyed sitting with us talking about it. Now, there's a bit of news come up on my feed, which I've just realized. So down here in New Zealand, there's a wee 20-man tournament, which is mainly made up of the most competitive players in the region. And right now, as we speak, Sean, the man Tubman, or Little Sean from the Notorious podcast, he recently just gone to KO after the book, which I hate. I absolutely hate him for it.
I converted him. You're welcome.
Yeah, fuck you. He's actually bought the army. So, he hasn't bought. He's invested in the same army that was featured on Warhammer Community by Sloan Doherty. That amazingly painted and converted up army. Yeah, he's got that now. And right now, he is on the top table against Zinch to win the event. So we could be seeing one of the first. Yep. So we could be seeing one of the first places for Kharadron Overlords in an event
with the new book. Yeah.
Is this
the new book?
A 2-day tournament?
Yep, it's a 2-day 5-round tournament hosted at the Winterdale Tavern in Upper Hutt. Sorry, not Upper Hutt. Jesus, Parapara Umu, which is in New Zealand, which is on the Kapiti coast, which is just north of Wellington. It's sort of where a lot of the events are being held right now. It's a great venue. But yeah, so we're seeing a lot of the top players in New Zealand, which happen to be focused around Wellington. They're all sort of converge there for a wee 2,000-point tournament. So I'll be updating everybody on that, because the list is actually quite interesting. It's not really the list that I would take. It's
so
quite
what is this list?
I can't find it. It's been lost in the chat because he keeps changing his mind, because it's just the person he is. Because he's always writing weird and wacky lists. But once we find out, I will get it up on the KO page and stuff like that. I'll get it up on Twitter and stuff like that. And another other point of news from me, where it is quite big for New Zealand, is Notorious GT in September. Yeah. It's being held in Upper Hutt at the RSA, and it's now looking like it's going to be a 90-player event.
Ooh,
very good.
Which is huge for New Zealand. Last year's Notorious GT was 50. So it's a huge increase. We've got a lot of guys from Australia coming over, including my man here,
I'm
Elex.
going.
Yep.
I'm going.
So we'll get there to meet for the first time in person.
Flying over in my ironclad.
Yeah, boy, I'll be there. For once in my life, because obviously work's very busy for me right now. What with family and whatnot, I'm on a course which has me working weekends. But but essentially in September I should be free. I've already put in my leave through work, so I'll be able to attend that weekend, and I'll be there with KO. Another thing as well is that ever since the KO, I'll be there. I'm just trying to figure out a list. And with that.
Oh, we're gonna have at least 3 KO players by the sounds of it.
Honestly, I was just about to say, I think we're going to have a lot more because in New Zealand we've seen a massive uptake in KO. Like when I first started playing KO and when I first started playing events with them, there was maybe 1 or 2 of us really attending the tournament scene.
Basically,
and that's why I got the badge. But now, I mean, at this event alone, I believe there's 4 KO players out of 20. I'm not too sure. I have to have a look, but I know that there's at least 3. There may be 4 or 5.
Oh wow!
So we're seeing a massive uptake, and I think that's mainly because a lot of guys bought KO because they looked cool back in the day, but they didn't really want to, pay the amount that we had to pay to on a competitive list. But now the army is so much cheaper to collect. To actually make a 2,000 point list is actually a lot cheaper than what it used to be. So you don't need like 18 sky riggers like we used to. Now you only need maybe 12
boxes of bloody Arcanauts.
Yeah, exactly that. So we're seeing a lot of guys who previously had KO or were running KO in like temper style lists and stuff like that. Lee, I'm looking at you. So a lot of them are taking up KO, which is going to make it very hard because my goal for 2020 was to get the KO badge, but with Sean Tubman playing, I'm not going to get that badge. He's just such a good player. He knows what he's doing. He loves the army and he knows how to use it. So there you go. Notorious GT in September, everybody. If you're in Australia or anywhere else in the world and you really want to attend a cool event in New Zealand, which is looking like 90 to 100 players, which is massive for us. Like that's astronomically huge for New Zealand because we're such a small community. Come on over. We'd love to have you.
Todasol is asking in the chat if it's being streamed.
I don't know yet. I'll have to get in touch with Tubbs over that. I know there's been talk about it. I can't confirm or deny. I'll look into it. And I'll ask the boys. Because I know that Dan Shorts is going to be there. Because he's.
Oh yeah, of course. He's from New Zealand.
Yes, he is. He lives in Auckland, New Zealand. I'm looking at moving there in the future because of work and stuff like that. But yep. So he'll be down there. He'll be doing all that stuff. But there are facilities there to record and to live stream. I know that there are. They've got these big like camera things up the top of the roof and stuff like that where you can record games and such forth. But yeah, I'll definitely look into it for you, mate, and I'll answer the question when I get confirmation.
Cool. I'll really
Personally,
put New Zealand on the map.
Rob and the Honest Wargamer to come down. I really do want him to come down to New Zealand. I think he'd love it here. So if you're listening, Rob, please come down and join us for Notorious. We'd love to have you.
Probably have to start some kind of
fundraiser.
Kickstarter fundraiser. Yeah. Go fund me.
Yeah. I'll talk to the Shawns about it because they're both really good friends of mine. I started playing Age of Sigmar with Tubbs. We're both really good mates. We started our local gaming group together back in the old days. It started off with just he and I, but obviously he's exploded in both talent and skill, and I've just stagnated, I suppose. But just to put a caveat on that as well. So this 90-player event, when we started playing like proper competitive Age of Sigmar after the GHB came out, our largest ever event in 2017. Wait, no, I lie. It was 2016. Was 16 players. And we've come up to 90. So that's so that at the big uptick, a big uptake for us. But yep, sorry, I'll stop spewing on about that and let you guys say what you need to say.
I just want to do a quick, sort of a shout out or just let people know because you mentioned about someone being on the top table with KO. A guy called Kane or Eric Kane. I want to say Eric Kane. Okay, well, he mostly just known as Kane anyway.
Yep.
He was actually from Northern Ireland. He won a one-day about a month ago with the new book with KO. But I mean, obviously that's just a one-dayer. But recently he was at a Teams event, so little bit different with the way obviously Teams event run. But it was a 5-game tournament, and he did go 5-0 with his KO.
Wow!
So
good on him.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, there's gas in the tank.
Good. Yep. And with that, I forgot to say before, because we're actually literally just talking about this before the show started. We need to start talking about what we've been up to. And I totally forgot to talk about it. Okay. I'm sorry.
Right,
yeah.
So
I might as well get into that now.
News update. So I've got, speaking of tournaments, I've got SAGT coming up in about 3 weeks. Not going to be 90 players. Look, I think it's going to be about 50. And you got Doom and Darkness and AOS Coach. They're going to be there. Don't think it's getting streamed, but
the boys are going to be.
Yeah. So that'll be at the RSL here in Adelaide, which is nice because it means it's the one tournament I don't have to drive for 8 hours to get to, or fly. And I'm actually thinking of instead of going with my Barrack Urbaz list, I'm going to take a Zilveren list with
Iron Sky Command.
Yep, Iron Sky Command with still 20 Thunders and Ironclad, but very Alpha Strikey, very brutal first 2 turns. And I've been testing out the Rat Trap recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I can see why people think it's good, but I don't think it's very good for me because I'm really bad at this game. And I just fly into it every time. So I cast the thing in the middle of the enemy. It does its thing. It zaps everyone. Then I, in the movement phase, push out with the Thunderers, move everything up into engagement range, and then the Ironclad got hit. Rolled a 6, did 5 mortal wounds to it. Next turn, another 5 mortal wounds. Suddenly the Ironclad's not looking so great.
No.
You think I learn? I don't learn. Next game, did the same thing, and the Dirigible Ender Master died. 2 or 6. It's a learning process. It's a learning process.
It really is. So far, I've only played 5 games with the new book, because obviously I've just been so bloody busy with this course. I've managed to paint up most of my 2,000-point army. I'm still waiting for my Ironclad to arrive next week, which I'm really looking forward to. I just need a lot of aggro church shape. But yeah, so I've won 2 games, but I won't count one of them because we both got our rules wrong. And I ended up thinking I was able to move my engine riggers after flying high, which it turns out I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I'm going to disqualify that because it wasn't fair. And I
only if you have Zilveren.
Eh?
Only if you do the Zilveren move.
Yeah, exactly that. But I was taking Urbaz. So yeah, great apologies to my mate Andrew, who I was playing with. He hit me up afterwards, and I felt really bad because I hate cheating. But yeah, and my other game was against OBR, and I beat them, which was great. And then my last 3 games I played last weekend, I ended up playing 3 games in a row because I hadn't played in a while, and I got absolutely trounced. So I lost all 3 of those games. Played against Tubbs with his daughters, and he kicked my ass. Then I played the same guy with Slanesh, and he fucked me up pretty bad. And then I played against his Nighthorn, because he's got multiple armies, this guy. And then he beat me with Nighthorn, and so I felt really bad about myself. Yeah, but I know I've been experimenting with different list builds. I've got some more stuff coming on the way. I've got some Arcanauts, so I might try to take some Arcanauts later on, but we can talk about that in another episode. Lee, what have you been up to?
I'm trying to think. Did I mention the tournament I went to in the last episode?
I wasn't here.
No, I don't think I did because we were interviewing Alex. But yeah, so I played a one-day tournament not long after the book come out. I went 2-1, which is not bad.
No.
And to be fair, the game I lost was we didn't play a huge amount of rounds, and it was one where I can't remember what it's called now. Is it escalation? Yeah, escalation, where you don't even score points in the first round either. So, and the only reason I really lost that was because I moved some engine riggers to 3 inches away from an enemy unit and forgot to actually roll my charge, and so they didn't charge and didn't do anything, which is very stupid of me. But that was a bit of a learning curve. I did make some other mistakes in that game, and not in that game, but in other games that did favour me, which I don't think they're going to be listening. But if they are, I apologise, and I will not make those mistakes again in the future. Just little things, where you get used to things from the old book, and then you play with a new book, and you realise you actually couldn't do that. So I think in one of the games I moved 20 Arcanauts inside my Ironclad, and I didn't have the Ebullient, whatchamacallit?
Buoyancy aids, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a complicated book. Takes some getting used to.
But so I was playing a list with the Rat Trap, and I also had the Comet, the Everblaze Comet, because it's just basically that was sort of the most interesting and the best list I could come up with the models I have available, because the list I was playing before and stuff, I never built any gun haulers in the past, and I did used to use mostly riggers and stuff, which was basically how KO used to play. So I had an interest. It was quite interesting because you could splash a lot of mortal wound damage with both of those endless spells. I did have some issues with the Rat Trap, similar to you. I didn't have to go into it, but a few times I sort of put it somewhere and then thought, oh, I wish I hadn't put it there. You have to get the placement with it quite accurate, really, and think about really where it's going to go for a couple of turns ahead. And then other than that, really, I played another game just trying to test out using 2 Ironclads, and 2 Ironclads, a Lord Ordinator, and a Knight Venator to teleport the Lord Ordinator with the ships. That was just a test game with a mate. That was quite fun. It's probably not a competitive way of playing KO, but it was an interesting thing to try out. Though once I'd sort of figured it out, I thought that you could do it. I thought I got to try it at the very least.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've been building Thunderers, but I've been trying to magnetize them, so that's kind of hit a little bit of a brick wall because I run out of magnets. I need to order some more. And I've been building a gun hauler so I can expand my options a bit for the future. I might have some tournaments in March, maybe.
Nice.
Maybe. I'm not sure if I can go to them because there's 2 tournaments. One's a doubles and one's a singles. I mostly want to go to the singles. They both sort of fall around awkward things with close relatives having birthdays and things, so I might not be able to go, unfortunately. But other than that, I am prepping for Bobo. Is the big thing coming up for me, really. It's the end of May, so it should be a pretty massive tournament, I think, because last year it was nearly 20 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, nothing as well. A tournament's just popped up today in New Zealand, 2,500 point tournament in Kapiti.
Oh,
which
that's big.
In May, and I'll be trying to attend that. It's going to have a cap, obviously, because the venue's quite limited in how many it can take. But yeah, so I'm looking to attend that with a 2.5k list of KO, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah.
Question: can you fit a Grand Armada in?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Would you have 3 battalions, like the squadron, the escort wing, and the command?
Yeah, it's a big mega one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Grand Oa. So I don't think you'd have the points. I mean, I'll have a look and see if I can, but it's kind of dumb. But
always. But that's the most fun.
I think you could build a pretty mean escort wing though, with an ironclad and 3 gun haulers, and you can fit in a lot of stuff.
Oh, you could fit in two ironclads.
Ooh. Don't tempt me for
Yeah. Oh, one of them will be in the battalion though. But
I mean, yeah, but on the other hand, 2 ironclads.
Yeah. Or can you?
What's going to stop you?
Can you have 2 ironclads and 40 thunderers? Is the question.
Give
if you're Barrack nah, and use the thunderers as battle line.
Yeah.
Oh, but you need 4 battle line.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, but then you have 2 Archnaut screens.
Yeah, just 2 10-man Archnaut units. And then get the chemist or something. He's a cheap HQ. Maybe. It would be insane.
Or you could do something with multiple battalions, so you could have like all the best artifacts. Like have like 2 battalions and a chemist general with collector, and have like spell in the bottle, phosphorite bomblets, and all sorts of cool stuff. If you had 2 ironclads, one of them can have the last word, and the other one can have the chargy thingy.
The battering ram.
Yeah.
Because
all to you by Zombicorp.
Yep. All the best engine works are for ironclads, so take 2 ironclads.
Right.
Or 3. Can you fit 3 in a list?
Yeah, just.
Do it. Do you have 3 ironclads?
No, I don't even have 1 yet. Come on. Not made of money, you know. But right, team. So yeah, I suppose that we should close this off.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a ramble at the end there, but that's okay. I'll make sure we'll do that at the beginning next time.
Yeah.
Many apologies. So yeah, thanks very much for listening, guys. Tune in to the next episode, which will be coming out at some stage in the future. I don't know when. I hope I can make it. Just depends on work.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks very much, guys. We'll keep if you're entertained. If you guys are not a member of the Kharadron Overlords Facebook page, please make sure that you join up, and please make sure that you answer the question correctly in order to be accepted.
Or just answer the question, really. Just put something in there.
Yep, exactly that. If you do not answer the question, you will not do it. You will not.
We'll probably still let you get in, but no.
Yep. But no, yeah, it's a great community. A lot of really friendly, happy people. Everyone's really quite passionate about KO. But yeah, so if you're interested, and even if you don't play KO, and if you just want to see what we're up to, come along, have a look.
Yep.
So well, once again, thanks very much for listening, guys. We are the Galdrad, and see you next time.
Cool.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.